Now, hello, this is Glenn Howe's General Helpful Software. I have an app, SVG Paths, which I use when I want to make simple vector graphics. It also, I hope, can help people learn about a part of the SVG format called the SVG path. Now, I have already put together a video about the operands that are in an SVG path, and you can see it in my collection of generally helpful videos. But today I want to talk about how to use my particular app, especially since I just very recently upgraded it to version 2 with a much more elaborate interface and more control over how the paths are rendered. So let's get started. I'm going to launch the app. Now, this is a very basic, simple, standard interface for locating and managing files. Apple actually provides me with this interface, so you should find it familiar and similar to other apps. So if I go into SVG Paths, and you will notice that I have there's some examples. If you were interested in seeing some examples, these are things that I myself have drawn. But we're going to start with a new image. What we're going to try and do is we're going to recreate this heart image. Let's see how to make it and how to manipulate it and set the styles on it, that sort of thing. So the first step is hit the plus button, and the second step is to give it a name, and I will call it Hollow Heart. And hit the name button, and it will create a new template. Since the artwork that I'm going to try to recreate here is very symmetrical, I'm going to start at 0. So I'm going to say move to 0, 0. Now I want to draw a circle to put the heart inside of it. So I'm going to draw an arc. I'm going to give it a radius of 100. Radius both in X and Y, so this will be a circle, not an oval. And basically there's a trick in SVG that if you want to draw a circle, you draw 2 half circles. So I will draw a half circle to 0 to 100, and another half circle of the same radius to 0, 0. Okay, and I will close it with a path close or a Z. Now, at this point, I'm going to start drawing my heart. Again, since it's symmetrical, I want to start on 0, so I will say move to, let's say, 0.45, which I've checked out before, and that seems pretty good. And I will draw a cubic Bezier. And so you can see I can manipulate the control points of the cubic Bezier to my heart's content, and I can just approximate it and move it over here, and I say that's a little too fat, and end it up. But one thing I do want to do is to end up at touching the circle at the bottom. So I will hit 0x and 200, and there I have half of a heart. Now I will draw another cubic Bezier that will end up at 0.45. I know that because that's where the thing started. And I also know that I can reflect the control points. So for instance, this control point at 154.93 will correspond to a control point on the second cubic Bezier that's at negative 154.93. So I will type that in. And similarly, this one that's at 83, negative 19 will become negative 83, negative 19. So I will type that in. Okay, now I have a heart. I'm going to close with a Z. And at this point, I can start manipulating it. Now let's just say, for instance, that I wanted to have thicker lines. I could, tap here, make thicker lines. I could make the point, the way that lines join together different. I could make it rounder, or I can make it a little beveled, or I can make it the way I want it to in this case, which is having a very sharp edge. Similarly, if I had any freestanding lines where you can see the ends, you could change the end to be round or square or extended. So, and you can see the little picture of the smiley face guy, that the kind of things that happen. So what you can play around with the smiley face guy, how things look. So for instance here I say, oh, I don't want those rounded end lines, end caps. I will just make them square. And similarly, I don't like his Joker smile, so I will round it off a little bit. Anyway, so that's pretty cute. So anyway, so now I've manipulated the line strokes. Now I want to go back and I want to set a color. So it's a red thing. I want to make it nice and red. So I will try to find a color I like. Similarly, you'll notice that there are favorite colors along the bottom. For instance, if I'd wanted to make it this color that I'd saved, I would do this. And actually what I probably should do is find a shade of red I like. I'll hit plus, and then I'll save that for future use. So anyway, so I've chosen this sort of brick red color, and I tap it. Now that's nice, but I wanted the inside to be see-through or transparent. So I will, in order to do that trick, I will go here. I will change. The problem here is that the circle was clockwise and the heart was clockwise. If I had drawn the circle clockwise and the heart counterclockwise, it would have made a cutout just using the normal fill rule. But I will change the fill rule to this one that has 2 interior hollow points, and it becomes a cutout. And actually, since I did that, I will go over here. I will switch to the stroke color. I will set the stroke color to none or transparent, and there I have completed my artwork. Very good. As far as the other palettes up here on the top of the screen, you will see that there is one for inserting a background picture in case you want to do some tracing, and you can manipulate the opacity of that background picture with this slider. I'm not going to get into that. If I wanted to go back in time and to some previous time, so I wanted to undo my work, I could tap here. Oh, and similarly, if I use a 3-finger tap, I can undo things. No, a 2-finger tap. Sorry, if you do a 2-finger tap, I can undo, which sort of I didn't want to do. So I will go back to history and I will set it up again. Anyway, and finally, we have a share button, and we can copy the text of the path in case I want to paste it into some other and share that. Share just the path. Or normally what I would do is I will just share the SVG. For instance, if I wanted a copy of it on my MacBook, I would just use AirDrop and I would tap it there, and it would show up on my MacBook, and you can hear it go dee dee dee. That's what that means. And now I have it. Now I have a nice copy of it on my MacBook, and I can open it. Looks great. Anyway, so that is basically it. I mean, there's some standard file manipulation stuff. If I wanted to, for instance, I can long tap on the icon, and I can copy it and duplicate it. All these other stuff, delete, that sort of thing. I can set tags on it, and I do make a fair amount use of tags in my own use. If I have a project and I want, like I have my Radio Towers app, I made a lot of artwork for that. I will tag it as a radio icon so I can keep track of it. So anyway, that is the new SVG Paths app. And I'm Glenn Howes, and the app is called SVG Paths, and the company is called Generally Helpful Software. And good day.